You're ready, Melissa. Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's Writers Chat. And this is the place we all like to gather together and talk about all things writing for writers and by writers. And we've got a special guest today with a wonderful, wonderful topic that I think all of us can learn no matter what genre we write in. And so I'm going to turn it over to Brandy to introduce our special guest and see what we can learn today. Brandy, take it away.
I am really pleased today to introduce one of my special friends, Pam Halter. Pam is an award-winning children's book author. Her picture book series, Willoughby and Friends, is a Purple Dragonfly recipient and so popular with children, parents have been known to hide the books because they're sick of reading them. I can attest to that. She lives in southern New Jersey with her husband, special needs adult daughter, and 3 cats. You can learn more about Pam at pamhalter.com. Pam, we are so glad that you were able to come and join us today.
Yeah, well, I love Writers Chat, so I'm glad to be here. And I hope that everything that I'm going to talk about, y'all probably know a lot of it. We're all writers, right? And whether we write for kids or adults and all, the craft is the craft, right? So, okay, so I'm going to be looking at my notes a lot and because I'm distracted, so. Anyway, okay, so several of us here write for kids, and you know, we have picture books, chapter books, middle grade, young adult. Okay, so and board books. I didn't put that on my list, but we have that, like board books, ages like birth through like 2-3 years old. They pretty much have all pictures, maybe 1 or 2 words. Picture book ages 4 to 8, they rely heavily on illustrations. Most publishing houses want them to be 500 words or less now. I don't know why we're dumbing things down for our kids, because when I learned it was 800 to 1,000 words, maybe, depending on the topic. I still shoot for about 700-800, although Willoughby and the Terribly Itchy Itch is 498 words, so it can be done. Chapter books, which is what I'm going to focus on today, basically ages 7 to 10, you can get up to 15,000 words in a chapter book. They do often have some black and white illustrations, which, you know, I personally love illustrations, so I think adult books should have illustrations. Middle grade, ages 9 to 12, 12 to 15, depending on the topic, and young adult, 15 and up. Okay, so we want to engage a kid's brain. And how do you do that? Because our competition is super fierce, because kids, computers, videos, cell phones, everything there is fast paced and engaging. Even Anna, and most of you have seen Anna, she pops in every now and then. She's working with one of her home day program. We've created a home day program for her at home. So she's working, doing some stuff now. She's 30, functions at a real low 18 months and all, but even she is completely absorbed by a computer screen. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to have pictures. At church, my husband puts scripture on his cell phone and she's hanging over his shoulder looking at the words. There's something about a screen that engages a kid no matter what their level is. That's our competition. How do we get their eyeballs off the screen and into our books? Okay, so I'm going to focus on chapter books. Said they can run up to 15,000 words, depending on the publishing house. You always have to look at their guidelines. I subscribe to Children's Book Insider magazine, and they had a whole list of how many, and that's what they recommend for chapter books, up to 15,000 words. They differ from like early readers or easy readers, because the earlier easy readers are more for kids that are learning how to read. So your story is very simplistic, a lot of repeated words that kids are learning that they can sound out for themselves. In just a regular chapter book, you can write the story and not worry about all your easy words. You can use some harder words and all, because your older readers are going to be able to read a lot of that stuff themselves, but chapter books still are meant to be read out loud, just like a picture book, but they're just broken down into chapters. Okay, so just like a picture book. When you're writing, you get your chapters and all, you want to read it out loud so you can hear what it sounds like. All of us, no matter what we write, should really be reading stuff out loud so we can hear it. Because if you stumble when you're reading out loud, you're going to stumble reading it to yourself too. But with kids, especially their books, you also want to, like, if you can, have somebody else read it to you. Give it to somebody maybe hasn't read it yet. Let them read it to you so you can hear what it sounds like. And then that also helps you know if you you hear things, you hear mistakes, repeated words, awkward phrases, sentences, things like that. You also want to know that the reader understands it in the way you wrote it, your intentions. Okay. Now for chapter books, means you got a little bit of an older age, 7 to 10. Try to find some kid readers for that too. Probably on the higher end, 9, 10 years old, to read it, give you some feedback. And if you can get away with it, don't tell them you're the author, because kids are really, really honest. And they will, yeah, they'll tell you if it's boring or stupid. My grandson, when he was 7, told me Willoughby was a wimp because he didn't burn people up with his dragon fire. So, so there's that. First picture I want to show you is, this is a book that's out of print and it's called Picture Writing. Let's see if I can find it. Oh my, because I've got lots of pictures here. All right, how come it's not showing me all my pictures that are open?
Okay.
Oh, show all windows.
Are you trying to share your screen, Pam? So you have to hit the share screen button down at the bottom.
Yeah, I did. I just couldn't see all the pictures I left open. Okay.
Yeah.
This book, this is a wonderful book, and it goes from board books all the way up to YA. Like I said, I'm pretty sure it's out of print now because I had to get it used off of Amazon because I had a new one and I gave it to somebody, wished I didn't. And when I went back to get another one, I could only get from other sellers.
Wow.
But this breaks down a lot of all the different age groups and how to handle things, some writing exercises and stuff. I'm gonna probably at some point start to go through again just the chapter book section as I'm working on a chapter book, because I don't have time to do the whole thing again. So there's that. Okay. Okay, so chapter books, just like a picture book, you don't really want any subplots in them. You need to keep in mind your age group you're writing for. If you need a subplot, just one, kids. This is what I've learned, but I cannot tell you, I'm watching my grandkids and other kids do these computer games that have stories and all behind them. They can keep track of a lot of stuff. So I think you write what the story needs, what it requires, and then you work all the rest of that out with an editor that's going to pick it up and pay you money to publish your story. Kids' attention spans are short, is what I'm told, but if they're engaged, they'll stay with you. Okay. So I don't worry too much about a kid's attention span. I just want to engage their brain and give them a great story that's fun with characters that they like and all. So kids like to read about kids their own age, a little older. So in a chapter book series, I would make the main characters anywhere from 10 to 12 years old. Although, there's a big span between ages 7 and 10, 7 and 12. So just like a picture book, you have to be able to write so you don't confuse or lose the 7-year-old, but you don't want to bore the 10-year-old or any other older kids that are reading it. So, it's not easy to write for kids. It's just not. So how do we engage their brains? Okay, well, big thing, like anything that you write, anything, you have to know your age group. Okay. How do you get to know them? Well, you hang out with them if you can. If you don't have kids that age or grandkids that age, check out your church, your Sunday school, check out the youth group, friends' kids, neighbors. Get to know these kids you're writing for and what they like, what they don't like, what interests them, all that stuff. So that you want to think like that age group. You can't think like them if you don't know them, if you're not hanging out with them in some way. Which means don't be afraid to be silly or gross, because ages 7 to 10, boys and girls are silly at that point. And remember what it's like to be that age. For some of us, that's like a long, I'm 62. Do I remember what it's like to be 10? Kinda, and younger, just glimpses and short memories, but I had children that age. I had grandchildren that age. My grands are a little older now. So remember, if at all you can, remember what it's like to be that age. What did you like to do and read, and what made you laugh? And, what did you want to go back? I was a kid always, even now, I read my favorite books over and over again because it's like hanging out with an old friend. I did that when I was a kid too. So what did I like back then? A little different than what I like now, a lot of different than what kids might like now. That's why you got to know them, right? So since I'm new to chapter book writing, I don't have nearly the amount of chapter books that I should be reading, because that's another way, read newer chapter books. Your public librarian's your best friend. You go to the library, you say, what are the 7 to 10-year-olds reading right now? And that's what you do. I did not do that. So didn't follow my own advice, but I did go to a bookstore and I asked, what do you have and what is published out there for ages 7 to 10 that has anything to do with cooking, baking, whatever. And so that's what I got. And I got, there's a series called Next Best Junior Chef. I'm going to show you them in order. Where are you? Where's the rest of my files? I have all these open. Technology and I do not play well together. And I'm not sure. Okay, so I'll show you the second one. Oh no, this is the first one. Never mind. So it's about a cooking show for kids. I watched them on the Food Network. I watched them before I got an idea to write a book about kids who want to cook. Okay, so that's what I'm working on, this Food Fight series. So this is the first one, and it gives you not just the kids and their personalities and how they love to cook and bake and all, but it goes behind the scenes of a cooking show. I'm not doing that in mine, but I found it super interesting. So there's that one, and the next one carries on. It's a continuation of the show. I've read these twice already just because they're just so much fun. And then this last one is the winner. And she wrapped it up beautiful. There were lots of notes and things in the back of the book. And it was a lot of fun. Now, what she did in the inside, I talked about some black and white illustrations. Let me show you, let's see here. Nope, wrong one, this one. There, just scattered, and it wasn't on every page. But you see look how inviting that is to read, where now chapter books sometimes have a little bit of a bigger font depending on, the publisher and how they print things and all now. But you break up with an illustration like that. It draws your eye to it, but it also makes a kid, especially a kid who's maybe a little slower reader, that they don't feel so overwhelmed. Lots of white space. So with chapter books, lots of dialogue, shorter paragraphs. Then the other thing they did here that I thought was interesting was they showed, they had the characters themselves talking about how they felt, what's going on in the show and all like that. And that was in the beginning of the chapters. And I thought that was a pretty brilliant thing, because it gave you a little bit more to, the kids. And there were things that the kids told you in these little, interviews that the other kids didn't know. So that was kind of fun. Okay, so another whole different thing I want to show you, because I thought it was interesting, and I can't remember where I got this book. Oops, it keeps doing that. I don't know why it does that. I've deleted that one off there. It's called Desmond Puckett, and I see his picture, but I don't. Where is it? Here we go. Let me do this. This is what it looks like. And I took a picture of the cover. See how bright and cool it is? And for some reason, my computer keeps substituting it for one of my friends who released a book like a couple weeks ago, and I deleted it off my computer. However, I have computer demons. So anyway, I can't remember where I got this. Isn't that awful? I can't remember if it was somebody suggested it, or I got it at a yard sale or what. But the very cool inside of this, there's a lot to the story, loads and loads of illustrations. And they're a lot of fun, and there's stuff there in their illustrations, and you want to look at it and read it because it's not in the story. Whereas the other book I showed you that had little illustrations in was something that was happening in the story. This is as well here, but it's also picturing out some of the story instead of writing out all the story. So I thought that was kind of cool. Now, as the author, unless you're also the illustrator, you would want to put that stuff in your notes of what you wanted, your idea for it. Like, I'm sure the author who did this, Mark Tatulli, doesn't say if he illustrated it or not. But if I had this idea, then you put that in your, in your proposal. But you see, those things like that engage a kid's brain. It kind of sucks them into the story and helps them stay with it. Okay, so besides that, your word choices make a big difference. And this is where it's super important to have good, strong verbs, good, strong nouns. If you need to use an adjective or an adverb, you want to place it really well. I'm listening. I've listened to all the Harry Potters on CD in the car. That woman, J.K. Rowling, loves her adverbs. I am telling you, if you had a dime for every adverb she used, you'd be a rich person. It's crazy how much she uses in her adverbs, and it's annoying. Wasn't annoying reading the books silently to myself, but hearing it out loud, oh my goodness. But maybe in, England and Britain, they're okay with all their adverbs, but they're very annoying when you hear them out loud. So she got away with it. She has a story world that's fabulous, that engages kids and adults. Okay, most of us don't do that, right? Therefore, we really need to look at our word choices with kids. And somebody, a couple weeks ago, talked about that website where you could look at make sure your words were, I have it down here in my notes somewhere. Children's Writer's Word Book. Notes are your friends. And HemingwayApp.com tells if you're using the right words for the age group. That's a good thing. But throw in some bigger words, because kids like to learn. Make up your own words. Why not? Because kids like to do that. They like funny words, silly words, gross words, especially if you're writing for boys. My grandson is 12. Anything that you can do with burping or farting, he's like right there, So So I got the idea for this chapter book for food fight. And it's about a boy who wants to learn how to cook because his mom's a terrible cook. And so I started, that's why I got those books there, not Desmond Puckett. He doesn't cook, but I was just looking at the genre. I found since then a whole list of other books about kids who want to bake or cook and all. And people who say they can't do it have not watched Food Network, because I'm watching these kids on the Food Network and they blow me away. They're so smart and they have such a passion, and they know, since I was 5 years old that I wanted to be a chef, and they're like 9, so it's so, yeah, make your characters larger than life. Why not? Kids love that. Pippi Longstocking, I think, is probably still popular. She's one of my favorites. I wanted to be her neighbor, and she did a lot of crazy stuff that you think couldn't possibly happen and all. Who cares? It's fiction, right? It's fiction. So I got books on weird foods that, I can't put my hands on because we've moved since I got them, and they're probably still packed away in a box. And videos now, that YouTube is our friend. You can go onto YouTube and find so much. I looked at, some of the chefs, and to get some recipe ideas and all for my main character, Buddy, to be able to cook. And, but you can go on there and you can find authors reading books, or other people just reading, you just type it in, reading a chapter book, and see what comes up. So much stuff on there with that. Again, your public librarian's your best friend. Chapter book. Kids, they love action, silly, fun situations, a little mystery, and always a great story. Kids, even people, the general population, because those of us that are writers, it's hard for us to read, isn't it? Like, if I can read a story without editing in my head, whether it's a kid's book or an adult book, it's glorious. It's so hard to read without editing in my head. The general reader doesn't. They just read, and they want a great story with characters that they like and they care about. Kids want that. Adults want that. So that's, you focus good on that. Word choices, make up your own words. Okay, so as with any character in a story, you have to know your characters. If you don't know them, who they are, what they like, everything that you can possibly know about them. I have files on my characters where, not just in my mind, like what they look like and the color of their hair and stuff, but what they don't like, what's their favorite food, what's their favorite color, anything that I can possibly know about them, I have listed on a file. Most of it won't make the story, but because I know that much about my characters, then their dialogue comes out natural. They react to things in a way that's in keeping with their character. I'm not going to write something that's totally out of character for them. And if I do, it's because there's a problem they're dealing with. So there's that. Kids know, I think they know, and they get bored so easy. And if you're just slopping down a story with characters that you don't know that well, and you're all over the place with them, the kid's going to go, and they're going to go to another book. Just like a grown-up, right? I mean, I have way too many books in my to-be read pile that if I start to read something and it doesn't hold my attention, I don't force myself through it anymore. That's way too much of my life that I'm spending on something I'm not enjoying. So I'll put it down and I'll go to the next book. Most kids like the unexpected. Okay, they don't want to see the same old, same old. So here's now where we're going to do a little bit of a writing exercise to get out your pencils and your papers, or have whatever you want to write it on. I am going to do a picture prompt. Okay, so I'm going to show you. I took a thing up. There's 4 pictures. You choose one or whatever, however you want to do it, and start to write a story for 7 to 10-year-olds. Okay. And then after a couple minutes, I'm going to show you another picture that you got to stick in somehow. Okay. So get the first one up.
This sounds like a real fun challenge.
Yeah. When I'm doing live workshops, I have a picture, and then I've taken poster board and made like a little, folder out of it. And so the picture on the front is what they start writing. And then after time, they have to open up to the second picture. So any of these 4 pictures here, I tried to pick kids that looked pretty close to the age range. Normal, mostly, and you can go any genre, anything you want, take them. Is it a scene? Is it the beginning? Is it the end of a story? Well, you don't want the end because I'm going to throw you another picture, but you pick any of these and write. And Brandy, let's, what do you think? 2-3 minutes to get started?
Yeah, we can do like 2 or 3. We can do 3. You want to do 3?
Let's do 3, and then 3, come back on at 3, and then I'll give the second picture. And everybody has used that. I have 1 picture for your second picture prompt. I want everybody to stick that same, because I love to see how people take the same thing and do different stuff with it.
All right, I'll set the timer and I'll let you know when time's up. You say when.
Okay.
Well, hold on just a second. Melissa's going to pause the recording so we don't have this 3-minute gap.
Right.
And we'll have to give her a heads up to restart the recording before we start again. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let's go.
Okay. And now it's time for you to add this to your story. And we're going to give you just 2 minutes this time. Okay.
All right. All right. So we'll pause again, Melissa, for 2 minutes.
Okie dokie. So if anybody that wants to share what they wrote can come back on and share with us. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
I can start.
Okay.
All right. So I saw the picture of the 2 kids holding up their crafts, and my brain then went a little weird because I noticed that like the girl's face kind of reminded me of a mask. So I wrote, behind the smiles, behind the outer pictures and dual crafts they created was something else, a sneaky glob that had taken the forms of children and put them on like Halloween masks. How easy it was to assume their forms and fool the adults. They would walk them down their paths to the caverns by the sea in the dead of night, and when sirens would sound to their child face masks, and the adults would have no idea what happened even after waking.
Mm. Yes. Okay.
Little weird.
Well, I love that.
Yeah.
So, who else wants to share? Isabel wants to share.
Yeah, I will, but mine's kind of crazy.
Okay.
Let me
So
get back.
I divided.
Isabel, do you want to go? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good afternoon for me while being in France. I divided. I took the 2 children that were by the sea with the craft they had made to see what was happening beneath the water. So I started like a chapter 1 would be a letter that would come. So they're at home, and our uncle invited us to go to the beach for a treasure hunt. And the guy first, she doesn't say the treasure hunt. So the little boy say, I don't want to go. I'm always bored by the sea. And then she said, yeah, but he promised a treasure hunt. So, okay, we go. So then chapter 2, they take these crafts because they know if we are going to have a treasure hunt, we will have to look down in the water what we find. So they've packed and they've imagined how the treasure hunt would be. Then chapter 3, when they are getting there, we have the second picture, and there it's awful. The beach is absolutely dirty, rubbish everywhere, stairs everywhere, people everywhere. Where are we supposed to do a treasure hunt? And now the uncle say, well, I don't tell you what the treasure is, but first we'll have to clean. It's like a boot camp for cleaning the beach. So one is grumpy, the other one is quite happy. So chapter 4 is how they make friends and they clean everything and so on. And then the end, chapter 5 is we found the treasure. The treasure is a beautiful, clean beach where everybody can have fun and care for one another, where we have new friends. It's not something we found in the water. It's not gold or whatever, but it's, you know, beautiful nature and
Love it.
Christian, glory to God. And if it's
Yep.
non-Christian, just take it like this. Here
Love
it is.
And
Thank
you can just visualize all the like really fun illustrations that could be gotten on there, the things that they find, and maybe they're disgusting, or, you know,
Yeah.
snail shells and, you know, with snails sticking out of them. And that would be a lot of fun. That's nice. Okay, Johnny, you're next.
Okay. I did the ones where I'm a little bit back from my computer, so I hope I saw what everybody else saw. It looked like they were looking down at phones or cameras, and I decided cameras. So
Okay.
Jamie needed to win the photo contest if she had any hope of being chosen as the student photographer for the school's social media site in the fall. This family vacation to the capital would give her lots of opportunities. Except her cousin, Mandy the Maniac, was coming along, and she wanted to be the student photographer too. Not because Mandy wanted to be the photographer, she only wanted to keep Jamie from getting what she wanted. As they wandered along a boardwalk of stairs up a steep hill, Jamie imagined how easy it'd be to knock Mandy off the side. Not that she'd ever do that, but then she looked at Mandy and realized Mandy was thinking the same thing. And I do realize that was telling, but this is a draft.
That's okay.
Except Mandy wouldn't hesitate to give Jamie a shove, and then she did.
Ooh, you know, sometimes it's okay to tell some things, especially if you want to keep the action moving.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice, nice, nice. Who's coming in? Hello, Maddie, our Maddie cat. Okay, Jill has her hand up.
Come on, start your video, Jill, or if you need us to, let us know so we can see you.
Yes, she
Yay.
is. You're muted.
There
Okay.
we go. All right. Okay.
Yay.
Can you hear me now? All right. I did the children looking in the water also. And my name is Maddie Suzanne Feister. My brother Jeff and I love to explore. After we found some super weird shells on the bank of our pond, we decided to solve the mystery and figure out where they came from. Solving the mystery was harder than we thought. Other people found out about the weird shells and came from all over the country to try and solve the mystery too. The glowing shells drew large crowds every night. People would come down the long staircase to search, to watch and search.
Glowing shells. Love it.
Random.
You know, and it's just what you wrote down in this quick exercise. There's a lot there that you would, when if you would actually choose to write that, you would need to flesh out. You know, like, you know, they find the glowing shells, but you see, you know, in something like that, then I would be like, there's a weird light in the backyard. What's that weird light in the backyard? You know, and that's something they would have at night. They would have to go out and investigate. They'd have to sneak out of their bedroom because it's nighttime. And there's a lot you could do with that. You go, hold on for a sec. My husband's texting me.
Well, does anyone else want to read their story?
Okay.
I'm sure y'all do. I'm sure there's someone out there who wants to read their story. Be
Baby girl.
brave. Be
Janice
brave.
has her hand up.
Okay.
Can't
come
step on
in.
the keyboard. Yeah. Okay.
Where is she?
All right,
Janice, you want to come on screen?
I don't write as fast as y'all do, but I got a little bit here. Jill and Jeff, I'm with them looking down in the water too. Jill and Jeff were trying out their new spy glasses for seeing underwater. Wow, said Jeff, I didn't know you could see so much. Cool, responded Jill. What was that? Did you see it? See what? It zipped by so quickly. Then the second prompt came up. So I kind of shifted gears a little bit and continued what she was saying. Then it simply disappeared into nowhere. Jill scooped the sand away with her hand, and so there's something underground, and that underground, that scene that you showed was like a, I don't know, time channel into a new world.
It's a bit like an underground stairway. That's
Yeah.
very cool. Yeah, love that.
To go with it.
See,
Like
the point of
dialogue.
adding that picture in after just a couple minutes, how many times have you written stuff and you're going along and all of a sudden an idea that really has nothing to do with what you were writing, but somehow wants to butt its way into your story?
Right.
That happens no matter what we're writing, right? And so what I found, it sometimes I can push that stuff away. No, you don't belong there. Then sometimes that weird idea you got, you end up fitting it in your story. It makes your story better. So cool. Anybody else want to share? We still have 15 minutes. I don't have a whole lot left, but I love hearing what y'all come up with. Yeah, Mike, that's our kitty cat. That's Madeline. She's actually my daughter's cat. She's the one that, if anybody saw my Facebook, that ate a couple of them Asian lady beetles that are out this time of the year. They look like ladybugs, but they're not. And she got very sick from a couple of them. And I posted that, and Facebook called me out on it, told me I was giving false information, and that their fact checker said pets have to eat lots of the bugs to be dangerous. Just a couple aren't. And I'm like, okay, so you're all veterinarians now? Anyway, she feels better. She's had shots and meds, and so. Okay, anybody else want to share? No? One other thing you can do that I was thinking of as y'all were writing, when you get people to read to you, once you're done your story, you know how a lot of us, we get beta readers to give us feedback. You can do it with kids. I did that with a couple of shorter chapter books that I did. And I have a couple of friends whose kids love to beta read, and they're actually very good at it. And I got decent notes and stuff. And I could see, as the one of my robot stories, the little girl was, she's 8 or 9. And so she showed me like where she got confused when she was reading. She's a really good reader. And so I can't wait to show her Food Fight. I haven't sent that over to her yet. She gave me a lot of good feedback. So
There was one question we may have missed when you were
Okay.
talking earlier about word choices. I think you skimmed over some two. Hemingway. Can you maybe
yeah, I
talk
typed it in the
about that?
chat.
Oh, did you?
typed-
Okay, I missed
I
that.
did, and
I'm
there
sorry.
was, because it was in my notes from, who was teaching? Nancy, but it was HemingwayApp.com. I wrote that in the chat.
Okay,
It says it tells you if you're using right words for the age group, like a grade
Okay.
level.
good. And then is this the book you were talking about too on the word book?
Yeah, and that was another one she had, because these are my notes from Writers Chat a couple weeks ago, I think.
I'll
Yeah.
hold it up.
Yep, children's writers.
This
Yep.
is a neat book. I haven't really gone. Some time I want to write a children's story, but I've never got into it. That you could just all sorts of, by level and by synonyms about what would be good. That this is a good one for kindergarten. This is good for 4th grade. This is good for 6th grade. So this is wonderful, and would be
Yes.
another way to, I think, just help your writing. It's
For
like a
sure.
thesaurus.
This was
Yeah.
when Nancy Sanders was teaching October 12th.
Mhm.
That was in my notes for there.
Yeah.
So
And then the other thing, real early on, you talked about the Children's Insider, and both
Children's
you,
Book Insider.
you and Brandy both talked. I thought maybe talk about that a little bit as a resource.
Okay. Children's Book Insider is an online magazine, but they have, that's once a month, but they also have other things that you can get in on. They offer like podcasts and different things like that. I'm trying to remember what I think it's 49.95 for a year. And that one of the new things they started last year and has articles in the magazine, some new releases, interviews, things like that. And so what they started last year was featuring either a publisher, an agent, editor, once a month, interviewing them and everything they're looking for. And then as a Children's Book Insider subscriber, if you feel like you want to have something to submit to them, you have a code for your email that you can submit a query or something to them, and they tell you, what they want, how to do it. It's all for children's writing, so it's anywhere from picture books up to YA. It's a pretty good resource. I probably don't use as much as I should because I'm not actually actively submitting stuff right now. But I found it helpful. I've been subscribed to it for years. Randy, are you finding it helpful at all?
I had considered it for a while. When you're in it, it's a little helpful. If you get their email and you're not yet in it, it can be a little annoying because they send you a lot of mail to join, and that annoys me a little bit. But I've also not done a whole lot of dedicated writing for children. I've written some stories here and there. So if I write a little bit more for children, then this is probably a resource that I will go back and revisit and perhaps join, because it is valuable and they've been around for a long time. They're reputable.
The other one is Story Monsters Inc., which is an online magazine. And that's who gives out the Purple Dragonfly stuff. Besides an online magazine where they do something similar, but it's mostly for readers, librarians, all the librarians that subscribe to it all over the country, get Story Monsters Inc.
Is that Inc. as in INK or INC?
Yes,
okay.
INK. And but they have this thing called it's like a co-op, they call it, and it's costs less than advertising, and depends, it's quarterly. The one I got in on in the spring was for teachers and librarians, and that if I sent a picture of the front page, cover of one of the Willoughbys, and a short write-up on it, and if they were interested in it, then they emailed me and I emailed them a PDF that I got from the publisher of the book. And I told all the teachers and librarians, if you write up, because if they chose to write up a review for Story Monsters Inc. website, Story Monsters put them in a drawing for, I think, an Amazon gift card. But I said, if you write a review, I will email you a coloring page that you can print out to your heart's content for story time or your class or whatever. I didn't get too many reviews, so I didn't have to, but it didn't cost me anything to send that out. But I got hundreds. It kept me really, really busy for a couple of weeks responding to these emails. But I thought that was better worth my time and my money than a straight advertisement. And then they also have something called Story Monsters Approved, which I've not gotten into yet, but you send somehow your book goes there, and then kids read it and kids vote on stuff they like the best. And if you get Story Monster Approved, and that's a new sticker for your book, that's what the kids chose. So
that's a great idea.
That's another.
Yeah, that's a great idea, because so often these kids' books has to get in front of parents and librarians and teachers in order to get the publicity, the marketing out. So that is really, really good to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So, I think, Brandy, you put a comment early on about when we were talking about getting kids to read or something. And I can't remember exactly what you said, something about.
Yes, yeah. I had wondered if children write short because, I mean, children read short because, or is it that children read short or that they read short because that's what they're given?
That's possible.
I wonder
You know,
sometimes.
like I said, when I started writing picture books back in, my first one came out in 2001 with Concordia. And it was 700, 800 words. But at the time when I was going to start to do the conferences, depending on the subject matter, you go up to about 1,000 words. I'm like, look at Dr. Seuss. And as time has gone on, they've lowered the word count, not the page. They're still pretty much 32 pages, but they've lowered the word count. I'm like, why are we dumbing things down for our kids? Shouldn't we be making them kind of be challenged to pay attention, to stay with the book? You know, Dr. Seuss, most of them, they're 48, 50 pages. I don't know how many words, and they're still popular. Kids still love them. So I don't know where publishers are getting that. I really don't. So my I do with it.
Well,
I would
as
like
it
to
been
read
pointed
you.
out, people will read things that are, will read as long as it becomes their interest, meaning, well, good authors, famous authors have been saying it for a long time. You write it just as long as it needs to be.
Mhm. Yeah, I always say, what does the story require? And that's what I write, because that's what the first draft is for, right? Because then as we go back and we revise, a lot of things we think really were necessary and had to be there, didn't really have to do that. So I showed Food Fight to Steve Lawby at the Realm Makers Conference. I know his agency doesn't, or an Enclave Publishing, they don't take this age group, but I've known Steve for years and I trust him. And I said, I just want your opinion. And he's one, because I said, I got a conflicting thing from my one critique group that said it's a chapter book. No, it's middle grade. I know what I think it is. What, as a professional, who do you? And he said chapter book. And I said, that's how I'm rating it. So my grandkids were helping me with it. It's done, but I would like to read you the first chapter.
Yeah.
And see if you're engaged with it too. So it's the Food Fight series. Book 1 is Kitchen Takeover. So chapter 1, and it's silly, and you'll see why. And I'm hoping that that's one of the things that'll hold kids' attention. But my purpose in this is to show kids that you have something you want to do, and you have a goal, and you have a passion for something. You can do it. You can. Takes work, but you can do it. So Buddy peered around the kitchen door. He didn't see any pots or pans on the stove, and the oven wasn't on. He gazed around the perimeter of the room at the white cabinets, all closed. The new granite countertops were spotless. So was the black and white tile floor. No cooking odors either. He had the delicious thought that maybe, just maybe, his mom wasn't cooking dinner. His stomach gave a hopeful lurch. A cold, wet something touched the back of his knee, and he spun around with a shout. His dog stood there, tail wagging and tongue lolling. Buddy laughed. Cronkers, Bake, you scared me. What you doing, boy? Bacon jumped up for a head scratch. I don't see or smell anything cooking, Buddy said. What do you think Mom is up to? Bacon whined. Before Buddy could check the fridge, he heard footsteps. Hammy, my love. Groaning, Buddy turned. Mom, please call me Buddy. Etta Berger stood in the doorway pouting, her brilliant yellow hair piled so high it almost touched the doorframe. She was wearing a navy blue boating outfit and a white apron with a crab embroidered on it. It's a very good family name, Ham. What's wrong with Ham, if I may ask? Buddy didn't answer. He had argued with his mom a bazillion times about his horrible first name, which wouldn't be so horrible if his last name hadn't been Berger. Ham Berger. Who the heck named their kid Ham when they had the last name of Berger? His mom, that's who. He changed the subject. So you're not cooking dinner? His mom pranced into the kitchen. The sailor hat that topped her hair swung back and forth precariously. I most certainly am. A new recipe. I'm proud of this one. It's nautical. That didn't sound promising. Nautical? She saluted. Aye, aye. It's a nautical surprise, so you have to leave the kitchen now while I do the plating. It's all about presentation, you know. Buddy's stomach, which was so hopeful a minute ago, sunk. He rubbed it while backing out the door. If only there was a way to tell his mom her cooking was bad. As Mom closed the door in his face, he heard a distinct chuckle, an evil, familiar chuckle. Wait, he said. She opened the door a crack. Yes? Bacon is still in there. Mom opened the door wider and Buddy whistled for the dog. He heard chuckling and cackling coming from the fridge. His heart sank as Bacon trotted up to him. There was no mistaking that sound. He knew it well. His dinner was laughing at him. Scene break. Buddy, Dad, and Grandpa stared as Mom, humming under the sea, set a large round serving platter on the table. Oh, I wish Patty could be here, she exclaimed. She doesn't know what she's missing. Buddy's older sister had an after-school babysitting job, followed by basketball practice, which got her out of dinner most nights. It wasn't fair. She practically screamed with delight when she got the job. A gloopy chuckle brought Buddy's attention back to the meal. The nautical dinner wiggled and wobbled on the platter. It was blue. A round blue gelatin mold, the hole in the middle filled with lumpy white stuff. Mom had sprinkled large fish-shaped crackers around the outside. Buddy could see the ones closest to the gelatin were already bluish and mushy. He felt seasick as he watched dinner sway back and forth. But as disgusting as dinner looked, his stomach betrayed him by growling loudly. Dear, Dad asked, what is that? Mom looked shocked. It's crab on the waves, she exclaimed. I came up with the name and the recipe myself. Buddy and Dad gaped at her while Grandpa held himself to a chunk of it. Me and my friend Dib used to go crabbing in the bay when I was a boy, he said. Buddy and Dad stared at Grandpa, then at the oozing, lumpy mess that was the crab filling, which spilled out from the middle of the gelatin mold. Yellow and green chunks mingled in the white stuff, and Buddy's throat clenched. He glanced at Dad, who looked as seasick as Buddy felt. I think I'll feature this on Edda's Eats, Mom was saying. I love the way the video turned out. She helped herself to some crab on the waves. And my outfit is so perfect. Mom had her own YouTube channel she'd named Edda's Eats to share her culinary creations with an unsuspecting world. And one of Buddy's worst fears was that someone at school would find out. That would be as bad as them finding out his real first name. His dad had intervened at kindergarten registration, and his school records only said H. Berger, and in parentheses, Buddy. Buddy would be forever grateful. Grandpa shoveled his dinner in, grunting from time to time. Buddy gagged internally. It was true that Grandpa had no sense of taste, but really, dinner was blue. Cronkers! That in itself was wrong. How was he going to get out of eating? Mom pushed the platter toward him. Eat up, sailor. I don't want to see any leftovers. Dinner glowed and burped. Buddy glared at it, picked up a spoon and scooped as small of a serving as he thought he could get away with, all the while thinking of how he could get out of eating. He'd used the stomachache excuse already twice this week. Last week he had a toothache. Well, for the first 3 days. After that, not only was he starving, Mom had threatened to take him to the dentist. The gelatin wobbled on his plate. There was no way he'd get Bacon to eat this for him. Dad had about the same amount on his plate. He was staring at it, probably having the same thoughts as Buddy. Grandpa went for seconds. A blob of blue gelatin stuck to his whiskered chin. Okay, Buddy said to himself, let's do this. He picked up a cracker and put a minuscule smudge of crab filling on it. He bit down and shuddered. There were no words to properly describe this foolish, sour taste. Ugh. The yellow chunks were pieces of lemon, but not real lemon. They couldn't be. No possible way. They were bad, putrid. It almost sucked his cheeks in. If there was only a way he could learn to cook. Meeting Dad in his tree fort for snacks was fine, but Buddy longed for real food, food like his friends talked about when they were in the school cafeteria. The crab on the waves made a farting sound. Buddy shuddered. It was going to be a long dinner hour.
Yay! I love your word choices.
Thanks. And so, as the story goes on, at some point, the foods do talk to Buddy. He talks to them. They, and he finds out kids can learn how to cook at career day at school, and there's a chef that comes and tells kids
Yeah.
that they can learn how to cook. So
That was a perfect ending for today.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And
thanks
you
for having me.
and you really given us a lot to think about and some great resources and some background on middle school books, early chapter books.
Yep.
So thank you. Thank you. Just while we're still on the recording, an announcement to the group. Next week, there is no writer's chat. We took the week off because of it
Okay.
in America. It is
Thanksgiving week.
and it's a busy week for a lot of people. So we gave you a week off, but we will be back in 2 weeks
Okay.
on that to talk about. So anything else, Johnny or Brandy or Melissa, before we go? Off
We
the
did have
recording?
one more question, really, really quick. Just to clarify, the word count for picture books is up to 500, can be 750.
It depends on the publishing house. A lot of them want 500 or less, but some will still take 700 or 800. They'll tell you in the guidelines.
Okay. And yes, I too wanted to say thanks for reading that story. That was really fun. And your
I had fun writing it.
yeah, there's a distinctive voice, and I know you were like doing the mom's voice and all that too, but so I don't mean that kind of voice. There is your buddy has a very strong voice that comes through, and that's really good.
A lot of publishing houses, they want the STEM stuff in the back of the book now. So yeah, I'm working on that stuff. Not right now, but that's my next. Just a glossary of cooking terms, some recipes, Buddy's going to be talking to the kids about, process and all, because he eventually learns how to make some things by watching YouTube videos and getting cookbooks from the library. So.
And humor. That was
Yeah.
The humor came through and stuff. So we'll finish the recording, invite everybody to stay for a few minutes for the after party, but thank you for being with us this week's Writers Chat. Thank you again, Pam, for being with us, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye, everybody.